You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Been frozen out.
Facing an extinction level event.
We don't fight this fight right now. You're not going to have black-owned media. All right, folks, today in a courtroom, Byron Allen filed a $10 billion lawsuit against McDonald's, alleging they have discriminated against his company, Entertainment Studios. This is what the press release states that he issued today. Byron Allen's Allen Media Group Division Entertainment Studios and Weather Group LLC filed a lawsuit on May 20, 2021 against McDonald's Corporation seeking $10 billion in damages for racial discrimination and contracting in violation of federal and state law. According to the lawsuit, McDonald's intentionally discriminated against Entertainment Studios and Weather Group through a pattern of racial stereotyping and refusals to contract. Entertainment Studios, a media company owned by African-American entrepreneur Byron Allen, owns and operates 12 high-definition TV networks that are carried by over 60 multi-channel video programming distributors, including Comcast, AT&T, Uverse, Charter Spectrum, Dish Network, DirecTV, AT&T Now, and Verizon Fios. These networks feature lifestyle content with general audience appeal and are widely distributed to over 180 million cumulative subscribers in all 50 states. In 2018, Allen acquired Weather Group, which owns and operates the award-winning cable news network, the Weather Channel, and the streaming service Local Now. McDonald's is the world's leading global food service retailer with over 39,000 locations that generate over $100 billion in annual revenue. African Americans represent approximately 40% of McDonald's U.S. sales, with McDonald's taking billions of dollars each year from African American consumers. But of its approximately $1.6 billion annual television advertising budget, McDonald's spends less than approximately $5 million each year, listen to me, each year on African-American owned media. And it has refused to advertise on Entertainment Studios networks or the Weather Channel since Allen acquired the network in 2018. Per the lawsuit, the McDonald's president and CEO, Chris Kempczynski, makes approximately $11 million per year, which is more than double what McDonald's spends per year on all of black-owned media combined. The lawsuit alleges that McDonald's refusal to contract is a result of racial stereotyping through McDonald's tiered advertising structure that differentiates on the basis of race. The primary advertising tier for McDonald's is referred to as general market, and it constitutes the vast majority of McDonald's advertising budget. McDonald's, however, created a separate African-American tier with a much smaller budget and less favorable pricing in other terms. McDonald's contracts with a separate ad agency, Burrell Communications, for this African-American tier, thereby creating separate and unequal tracks for black-owned media companies to earn advertising revenue. McDonald's has created a discriminatory environment that is separate but not equal. According to the lawsuit, McDonald's relegated Entertainment Studios to the less favorable African-American tier, even though the companies own and operate TV networks that have general market appeal and do not specifically target African-American audiences. McDonald's does so because the companies are owned by Allen and African American. Through this stereotyping, McDonald's prevented Entertainment Studios and with Weather Group from accessing McDonald's general market advertising budget and deprived the companies of advertising revenue that otherwise would have been paid if McDonald's treated the companies the same as similarly situated white-owned companies. Now, Byron sent this out. This is the quote that he used. This is about economic inclusion of African-American owned businesses in the U.S. economy. Says Byron Allen, founder, chairman, CEO of Allen Media Group. McDonald's takes billions from African-American consumers and gives almost nothing back. The biggest trade deficit in America is the trade deficit between white corporate America and black America. and McDonald's is guilty of perpetuating this disparity. The economic exclusion must stop immediately. Now, folks, today, this morning, McDonald's released released a press release stating what they were going to be spending or increasing their spend with black-owned media. I'm going to pull it up in just one second. And what they did was, in this particular statement, they announced that they are going to be, give me one second, I'm going to pull this up right here. Just give me one second here. I want to show you guys this. This is going to be what I'm showing you is actually from Ad Age. So Ad Age posted this particular story. It posted this particular story today. And this is what it says: McDonald's will more than double ad spend with diverse-owned companies. Then it says in the article, McDonald's is promising to more than double its U.S. investment in diverse-owned media companies, production shops, and content creators by 2024. Over the next 4 years, it will increase its U.S. advertising spending with platforms owned by Black, Hispanic, Asian American, female, and LGBTQ people from 4% to 10%. Then actually the article goes on to say that they actually were going to be spending, there's a press release that was sent out, they're going to be spending their resources. They're going to be going from, and let me just find that because I want to show you what McDonald's sent out. What they sent out was that they were going to be also increasing their black spend from 2 to 5%. Now, why does all of this matter? You know, y'all know you've been watching this show. You've been seeing us talk about these particular issues. Yeah, this is the press release that McDonald's sent out today. In this press release, you see where it says they will increase their spending from 2% to 5% of national advertising spend over the next 3 years. Okay, now allow me to first of all let me read this quote here. We've been making serious commitments that are guided by our values, and with this latest move, we're taking action to advance diverse-owned companies across the marketing supply chain, said Morgan Flatley, Chief Marketing and Digital Customer Experience Officer at McDonald's USA. We're using our resources to support these platforms and businesses, which keep the brand at the center of culture while creating deeper relationships with our diverse customers, crew, and employees. Now, what Byron Allen also published was an open letter. That if y'all have the open letter, go ahead and pull that up, please. There was an open letter that he also published that was signed by several of us. I am one of the signatories on that particular letter. And what that letter stated, it was speaking to the issue of lack of spend with African Americans and why it is important. Now, let me go ahead and pull this up so I can, like literally, folks, this just came down. The lawsuit just came down, and so forgive me for being slightly out of breath here, but I want to pull this up so I can show you. So the signatories on this letter, Byron Allen, also Todd Brown, Butch Graves with Black Enterprise, Munson Steed with Rolling Out, and also Junior Bridgman, of course, who is a Coca-Cola bottler who also owns Ebony Media. He bought Ebony Media. Now, in this particular letter that we all agreed to sign, this is what Byron Allen states in here. Again, he says that McDonald's has spent approximately $17 billion in advertising promotion and very little went to black-owned media, not to be confused with black-targeted media. Simultaneously, as this is occurring, he wrote the letter to the CEO. He said, your own personal compensation package for 2020 totaled just under $11 million, more than double the approximate $5 million that McDonald's spent with all of black-owned media combined last year. This is indefensible. Now, this is what he also says. He says, he said point blank, he said that, says in here that McDonald's has a racist and very toxic culture. He said, to be clear, this concerns black-owned media and not minority-owned media. Because minority includes white women and large corporations like McDonald's often hide behind and tout their minority diversity records while continuing not to do business with black-owned media companies. Now, let me speak to this. Here's the argument that we have been making for quite some time. African Americans are representing a significant market share of various companies. McDonald's, General Motors, Toyota, Target, and we can go on and on and on. Yet when you start asking how much of that money is coming back to black-owned businesses, it's not even remotely the same. In fact, what we're seeing is that there's a wide disparity. About $170 billion is being spent every single year on advertising in the United States. Prior to our campaign, black-owned media has been getting 1%. You heard me last week talk about the Forrest Marsh Group. They receive a significant number of federal contracts for advertising. How much of that is going to African Americans? Well, according to a 2018 study asked for by Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, the federal government over 5 years spent $5 billion. Black media got $51 million out of the $5 billion. Let me repeat that. Black-owned media got $51 million out of the $5 billion. That's on a federal level. McDonald's announced they're going to go from 2% to 5%. That means that all this period, African-American, black-owned media had only been getting 2%. According to Byron Allen's lawsuit, African-Americans represent 40% of McDonald's customers. 2%, 40%. Now, I know for a fact that there have been black executives at McDonald's and black McDonald's franchisees who have been pushing the company to do more. For the last 2 years, I keynoted the National Black McDonald Operators, Owners and Operators Conference the last 2 years. I spoke about economic apartheid and economic inclusion and how these companies must do better. So the lawsuit from Byron Allen should not be a surprise when we start talking about the lack of inclusion. There's some of you who may be watching and you might be saying, okay, Roland, I don't really understand, like really what's the big deal? Folks, this is why we're broke. Economic apartheid is being practiced in America. If black-owned companies are not getting advertising dollars, are not getting legal dollars, bond dollars, accounting firms, engineering firms, architecture and design firms. I mean, I can go on and on and on. I'm not talking about companies hiring a couple of black consultants and paying them $60, $80, or $100,000. I'm talking about what happens when we're not getting 10, 20, 30, 50, $100 million. So let me just give you another example so you can understand the difference that this makes. So let's say we here at Roland Martin Unfiltered, let's say we all of a sudden go from where we are now and we all of a sudden let's just say go to $25 million a year. Okay? I want you to think about this. Let's say we go from $2 million a year to $25 million a year. Let's say I decide to pay a reporter $100,000. Let's say I decide to hire 20 reporters at $100,000 each. That's $2 million. Okay, so let's say I decide to hire 5 editors to supervise those 20 reporters at $150,000. Then that comes out to $750,000. Okay? Which means I could hire 25 staffers and spend, you throw in benefits, things along those lines. So let's say I would spend upwards of $4 million. Let's just push it to $5 million. I got $23 million more. It means I'm left with $18 million. That means we can now spend money on advertising and marketing. That means we can actually hire more producers. That means we can upgrade our technology. That means we can build capacity. But when that doesn't happen, when we don't get those dollars, we can't do that. If y'all want to understand why Black America is in the condition that it is in right now, it is because in the history of the United States, economic apartheid has been practiced. In the history of the United States, we have been frozen out of every sector of this society. And folks want to say, hey, but we're all equal. The argument that I make is very simple. If you are a company in America and you are receiving significant dollars from Black people, money should be coming back to Black people. What do I want to see at McDonald's? I don't want to see 200 Black franchisees out of 39,000. I want to see 13% of the franchisees at McDonald's are Black. So let me do the math. You said that McDonald's has 39,000 franchisees. I'm just going to go ahead and do this here. Because I just think because I'm walking y'all through this here for a very precise reason. Because I think a lot of times we don't properly explain this. And I think the customer needs to be fully aware. You're the consumer. You need to be fully aware of what I'm talking about here. So let me see if I can go ahead and do this here. I'm going to try to do it on my iPhone. I just want y'all to understand, because I'm walking you through this, because I think you need to be aware of why the battle is going on. Henry, can you see my calculator? You should be able to see it in a second. Okay, so 39,000. There are 39,000 McDonald's franchisees. Let's say 13% of the population is African American, times 0.13. That means that if you did the math and you said African Americans represent 13% of the population, of McDonald's 39,000 franchisees, we should have 5,070 franchisees. Right now it's less than 300. So let me go further. Go back, 39,000 franchisees. According to Byron Allen's lawsuit, African Americans represent 40% of McDonald's customers. So we do 39,000 times 40%. That means that if you took the number of customers, African American customers of McDonald's, and said that should be then represented by franchisees, we should have 15,600 franchisees. 15,000 out of 39,000. So to go from 2 to 5%, I'm not satisfied. I appreciate the statement McDonald's put out. I appreciate the comments that are in the press release, but I'm sorry. I am unwilling to accept an increase from 2 to 5% over the next 4 years. Like I said about General Motors, McDonald's, do 5% now. Why are we waiting? We know the Black companies that exist. We know who they are. We know where they work. Folks, this right here, this is a list of the people who signed the letter. This is a list, and I read it. And I'm trying to get people, see, we have been told, and I guarantee you, Greg Carr will show you all the books behind him. How long have we been told? Wait. Wait. Be patient. Byron Allen's company, Black owned. Earl Butch Graves Jr., Black enterprise, Black owned. New Vision Media, Black owned. Munson Steed, CEO of Rolling Out, Black owned. Todd Brown's launched Urban Edge Networks, HBCU League Pass, Black owned. Ebony Media, Junior Bridgman, Black owned. Blavity, Black owned. I can go down the line of Black owned media companies that exist right now. So the question is, why are these companies saying we've got to wait till 2025 to reach 5%? People say, be patient. We have been. since 1619. We've been patient since 1865. We've been patient since 1877. We've been patient since 1954. We've been patient since 1960. Patient since 1968. African Americans will never, ever, I need everybody listening to me because I need you to understand what I am saying. We are no longer interested in talking about economic freedom. We are interested in practicing it. We're not interested in press releases. We are interested in direct deposits. We are not interested in talking about how do we get to that gold at the end of a rainbow. We're talking about depositing it. This generation is simply trying to fix this for the next generation. We're in the third Reconstruction. We're going to talk about that in a second. We're in the third Reconstruction. The first one failed because it didn't address the money. The second one was good, but it didn't address the money. We are no longer interested in just talking about voting rights and mass incarceration and criminal justice reform and health equities and education. Because, folks, this is America. And if you want to understand America, you must deal with the money. And if we, as black consumers, are spending it, we, as black owners, should be receiving it. My panel recently covered Black Women Views. Dr. Greg Carr, Chairman, Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University. Also, Mustafa Santiago Ali, PhD, former Senior Advisor for Environmental Justice at the EPA. Reese, I want to start with you. Folk love talking about politically. Oh, black women. Oh, yeah, black women. We can get black women to turn out. But do you fund black women? Do you invest in black women? Are you hiring black women to be event planners? Are you hiring black women to be political consultants? Are you hiring black women to be pollsters? Are you hiring black women to produce the radio commercials? Are you hiring black women to produce the television commercials? Are you hiring black women to actually place the media? See, folk love our labor. They love us being political sharecroppers. They love for us being retail sharecroppers. But when we start talking about us selling the crops ourselves, then we're told to be patient. Not anymore.
I completely agree with you, Roland. It's time to cut the check. I'm tired of the thank you, black women, for saving us. Thank you, black people, for saving us. And what do we get? We need a return on our investment, point blank, period. And it's long overdue. And I agree with you, Roland. We're not talking about cutting carbon emissions in the entire global world. We're talking about giving us some damn money. And y'all got the checks right now. You got cash on hands. So you can go on ahead and cut the check and put that direct deposit in these bank accounts. Anything else is nothing but rhetoric. And like I always say, I don't care about the rhetoric. I want to see the receipts. And it's time to start bringing some receipts to all of these pledges and all of these announcements that they're making. And as Byron Allen in the letter that you signed says, it's not just minority owned, it's black owned. I'm trying to figure out how the hell they have this wide bucket that pretty much captures at least 50% of the country in terms of what they describe as diversity, and say that whole diverse bucket is going to get 10% within the next 5 years. The math ain't math in McDonald's. We spending the money. I see McDonald's at the Essence Festival. I see McDonald's at all kind of black shit. But when it comes to paying black people, the actual owners, not just Black targeted companies that are still white owned, they got nothing but excuses. So I'm with you 100% on this one, Roland. It's time to cut the check, not 5 years from now, but today.
Mustafa, let me be clear, and I know many of them. There are African Americans. First of all, McDonald's, our frat brother, was the first Black CEO of McDonald's, Don Thompson. 18 months, and the board decided to get rid of him because they felt that he wasn't turning the company around fast enough. And then they hired a white CEO who executed Don's plan. That's how the company rebounded. That same CEO got ran off because he was having sex with employees. But the thing here, I mean, the white CEO replacement, not Don Thompson. But so here's what I do know. I know Black people who have been executives working inside who have been sounding the alarm. I know Black franchisees have been sounding the alarm. I know that there are Black people who are at Target, who are at GM, Ford, Chrysler, Mercedes, BMW. I know they are in every major corporation, fighting a good fight, trying to get these corporations to do right. They know the data. They know Black people and what we're spending. They understand our spending capacity. But the corporations are playing games when it comes to supporting. And the thing is this here. We know we exist. So the reason we have small businesses can't build capacity, can't get dollars, can't build capacity. And so what this is about is, this is about saying we're no longer interested in companies giving aid to Black America, giving charity to Black America, being philanthropic to Black America. What we're saying is, no, this is investment. This is ROI. This is a return on investment. We are investing in you with our dollars. We expect you to support our businesses.
Yeah, you know, this is about power. That's what it's really about, because they know if we build economic power, then many of the things that have been going on inside of our communities, because we didn't have the resources to be able to properly fight back, that paradigm then changes. This is an old narrative that we are dealing with, but we now have 21st century solutions to this old narrative. This is, as you led off with, about Black farmers not being paid the same as white farmers for bringing in the exact same crops. This is about Black folks paying money to sit in theaters and then being told you have to sit in the balcony or in the back. This is about Black folks paying the same amount of money to get on a bus and then being told to sit in the back of the bus or in the back of the train. So this is about also disinvestment and the extraction of wealth outside of our communities. So they will take our dollars, but then they also disinvest in our entities, in the structures that are necessary for us to be able to, one, fully compete, and two, for us to be able to also make sure that the proper narratives are being shared. I saw it in the federal context. You talked a little bit about federal dollars and how folks would raise it, but then people would just kind of fluff it off and say, well, you know, we're making sure that white women and other minorities are being taken care of in this federal contracting and subcontracting space. You know, whether it's McDonald's or GM or whoever it is, if you want our dollars, then you have to also be willing to reinvest back into our communities at a fair share. And until that happens, there cannot be economic justice. And we should actually be utilizing our dollars better and saying that if these companies, these corporations are not willing to do the right thing, then you will no longer receive our dollars, because there are other choices that we can move forward on.
Now I want Greg to really focus on this one. Because I see people in the chat going, boycott. See, that means you haven't studied your history. It was Reverend Leon Sullivan who created the apparatus that led to Operation Breadbasket. It was Operation Breadbasket he presented to Dr. King. Dr. King adopted that as the national program for SCLC. And then he picked Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. to run it. I told y'all, if you read Martin Depp's book, you'll understand. Boycott was not first on the agenda. It was last. The mistake that people make, Greg, is they yell, boycott! but you have not informed anybody. You haven't taught anybody. You haven't made a demand. You haven't made an ask. You haven't negotiated a deal. If you understand Operation Breadbasket, you will understand that it was after the people were informed, the people were educated. It was after they collected the data to understand what they were asking for. It was after they then said, we want to see black executives, black hires. We want to see money invested in black banks. We want to see black businesses getting contracts. It was when the companies refused after a period of time, then they went to the pulpits and said, we will now take direct action. What I need everybody listening to understand is you've got to learn to stop being emotional by yelling boycott when you ain't playing nothing, when you've informed nobody, when you haven't taught anybody. So people just running around going, boycott, boycott, boycott. No. See, the announcement today, and again, I appreciate the announcement from McDonald's that they're going to go from 2 to 5% on black-owned media by 2025. Roland is saying, thank you, but we're not waiting for 2025. Do 5 now. And in fact, make your goal 13. The goal for me is not 5. The goal for me is 13. If we're spending, if Byron Allen's number is right, that black consumers represent 40% of your market, well, the least you can do is spend the percentage that African Americans represent in the population. So I need black people to pump their brakes on social media when they start hollering certain things, unless you put in the work to properly organize and mobilize your people. Greg? Greg, we can't, hold up. I think you're on mute.
Okay.
Now we got you.
Yeah, I was typing on the computer over there. I was trying to pull up the case. I haven't read the case yet. If he's following the same strategy he followed in the Comcast suit, and this is a federal case, he's using that Civil Rights Act again. I was paying very careful attention as you narrated through there when he said separate but equal. Referring, by the way, interestingly enough, to Tom Burrell, who those of you who know the history of black advertising, and you've led us through this many times, Roland, is the brother who all but invented the whole notion of targeted advertising when he did it for McDonald's. Remember that Calvin's Got a Job commercial? That was Tom Burrell, who apparently is getting one of these crumbs that McDonald's is.
Well, no. Tom Burrell, Burrell, he sold Burrell, so he no longer controls Burrell.
Oh, he doesn't. So what is that Burrell then that they're talking about?
No. That's the same Burrell. He sold his partners, McGee, Ossie, Linda, and others. He sold from when he retired. He sold Burrell to them.
That's right. Thank you, because like you, Tom Burrell has shown some interest in investing in HBCUs. He created a Burrell Fellowship at Howard. In fact, this is after his book Brainwashed came out, where he's showing how this thing manipulates, how these companies manipulate our buying trends, which actually speaks to the heart of what you're raising, Roland. Individuals don't beat institutions. And you can't have a boycott if there's no we. And in this country, there is no we in terms of black people. Black people are a demographic. There's micro-targeting, there's the advertising, try to get us, you read Manny Marable's book, How Capitalism Underdeveloped Black America. Even the development of things like flavored sodas was targeted with black folk. You change the color of the sugar water, make it red, call it cherry, make it purple, call it grape, and then micro-target. This is what Pepsi did. And there's, like I said, there's a bookshelf of stuff's been written about this. But what you're talking about, Roland, there are a lot of moving parts, brother. And it's difficult. Near the end of his life, as Dr. King said, we need to redistribute the pain in terms of the selective buying movement. That came at the tail end of a lot of work. And of course, Reverend Jackson continued that, expanded it, the whole Wall Street project, the whole idea, whether it be beer distributorships or Wall Street, whatever you want to say. I mean, the idea of targeting. But here's where I think, for me, it's just very fascinating. Because again, this is breaking news. I was trying to look up the case. I haven't been able to locate it on the docket, but I'm going to read it. And realizing that Byron Allen has said over the next 2 years, he wants to invest up to $10 billion and become the largest television network in the country. He bought, 5 or 6 television stations last month for about $380 million. But I'm saying all that to say that we have someone in Byron Allen, and I'm the first one to say, look, my objective is Black liberation. So, I was pretty hard on Byron Allen and will continue to be, but at the same time, recognizing that you need a Byron Allen to kick in a door, because we don't have an individual with enough institutional clout and the willingness to exercise it to kick that door in, unless you get somebody like a Byron Allen or Oprah Winfrey or, something like that. But I'm saying that to say this. My questions, I have a lot of questions. One would be, if he kicks in that door, because you all are signatories to that letter. And I read some of, I was able to find the letter. I was reading the letter. I'm saying, like, McDonald's spends $1.6 billion a year on advertising, and only like $5 million of that goes to Black-owned people. Okay, yeah. If you can increase that, and certainly to the if the demographic is right, 40%, then you're talking about a huge windfall. The question becomes,
right,
what do the Black controlled companies do with that money?
Right.
Is it like corporate America, where you basically engage in stock buyback, and then you sit back and you put your picture on the cover of Oprah magazine or Essence and say, "Be like me," or are you going to ride us to glory? This is my question with Byron Allen.
Well, here's the deal. First of all, Byron's company is privately owned, so there's no stock buyback. Urban One is publicly traded. I saw a press release today where they were praising the McDonald's announcement for helping their stock price go up. Okay, but the thing here is, so let me unpack this. So I need people to understand, because again, we're talking about money here. The reason Black-owned media is small, the reason Black newspapers are small, the reason all these entities are small, because we've been suffocated out of the dollars. I'll say it again. I got no problem saying it. This is very simple, folks. If this company is able to get our fair share, if we are able, and I need everybody to hear what I'm saying, and I got no problem for anybody coming back to check, if we're able to secure $25 million in this advertising revenue, 30 people will be hired. Show me, I don't know if you got 30 Black journalists at the Washington Post. See, this is the difference. Then we go for not one show, but to 12 shows. So all of a sudden, you're able to build capacity. Fox News makes $1.5 billion in profit, not revenue, profit. So the reason CNN has CNN.com, they're doing CNN Films, they've got CNN Network, CNN International, CNN, all the different divisions, because they're getting the advertising revenue. So now imagine Black media now going from crumbs to a whole slice. Now you ain't hungry. Now, see, let me not go into academia. Now, we shouldn't be upset when the University of North Carolina plays games with Nicole Hannah-Jones for tenure, because now we can turn right around and invest that money in HBCUs and say, damn them, y'all now have the money to hire folks for tenure. See, now, and that's just a current example of what happened. See, where we are now, I need everybody listening to my voice to understand this. Where we are now is our entire Black infrastructure is predicated on philanthropy. The NAACP is solely existent on corporate donations. So truth be told, and the NAACP does great work, but the reason the NAACP can't really go hard, because when you're funded by corporate America. See, when Patrick Swigert was president of Howard University, he came on my radio show, WVON, and he was talking about the $250 million capital campaign that Howard was going through. And he proudly stated that 65% of the money for the capital campaign came through corporate donations. I said, Brother Swigert, that does not make me happy. He said, well, why? I said, well, Brother Swigert, if corporate America decides not to give, Howard falls. I said, so it should be 65 individual, 35 corporate. If people start examining our black institutions, if we, see, when the corporations pay our black businesses, then our black businesses can buy the tables. Then our black businesses can do the fundraisers for the black politicians. Then the black business owners, when Mustafa is working on environmental justice, we can say, brother, you don't have to sit here and go to that white nonprofit and beg them and kill yourself for $100,000. Here's $1 million. That, folk, is why we are sitting here. Greg, you talked about the money. I need everybody listening to me again. Let me go ahead and pull a calculator out. This is how much money. This is how much money right here. Matter of fact, I don't even think I can put it all on here.
Can't get that billion.
Y'all, I can't even put billion on here. So we're just going to use 170 million. Right now, in the advertising industry, $170 billion is spent on advertising. We get 1% of that. That means that what we get, y'all see that's 170 million. Pretend that's 170 billion. This is what we get right here. Just pretend that's 1.7 billion. So out of 170 billion, black-owned media gets 1.7 billion total. Y'all, if we go from a 1.7 billion collective to 17 billion collective, that completely changes the game. That now means, oh, CNN, y'all got satellite trucks? So do we. That now means not, well, Roland and Henry and Anthony, is only 3 of them can go out and broadcast remotely. I can now send out 20 crews to broadcast from different parts around the country. That's how the game has changed, Reese. And I need our audience to understand, every time you spending that dollar, you should be saying, what's the return on investment to black people?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, here's the thing. I understand where Dr. Carr is coming from. However, we still live in a capitalist society. At the end of the day, even if Roland Martin and Byron Allen and Blavity or whoever else got all the money and just pocketed it and put their faces on a magazine, it is what it is, because it's a capitalist society. And so it's not coming out of our pockets necessarily. It's coming out of McDonald's very fat pockets. So
no, but remember, it is coming out of our pockets because we're the ones putting it in their pockets.
That's true, but I mean, in the sense that
right.
At the end of the day, McDonald's is going to spend the money. It's about how you divide the pie. And we always have to go to the well to black people and over again. Actually, Roland, I agree with your point in terms of reliance on corporate donations, but it is kind of tiresome that every time black people got to come up with their $5 and they $10 and they $15, and we got to scrape and scrounge to fund things when there's plenty of money out there. It's just not coming to our institutions and to our companies.
Right.
Now, I firmly believe that the money going to our institutions will have a positive impact, as you laid out, Roland. It will have the impact of our stories being told. We have more autonomy. We have more capacity. And we know in this country, if it doesn't go viral, you don't get justice. So when this person is shot by the cops, if it doesn't become a hashtag, if it doesn't make it to CNN, that person's not getting justice. So there are real implications to scaling up the capacity for black businesses. But my point is, aside from all of that, we still got to make demands of these institutions, of these corporations, to give us a bigger slice of the pie. And it shouldn't always just be, okay, at the same time, writing the Black institutions for what they're going to do for us. They ain't got the money yet.
Right.
Yes, we need to hold them accountable, but we don't even hold the same amount of accountability for the white. Not you, Dr. Carr, but I'm saying as a community, we don't hold the white companies that are receiving the other $170 billion accountable for what they're doing for our community. So that's all my point is, that we got to get the money. They got the money. Let's get it. And then let's then hold our institutions accountable and say, all right, now you got this amount of purchasing power. What are you going to do for us?
Look, Angela Brock, I appreciate Angela sending me her $100 donation. Jarius Finney, $50 donation. You have Jairus had actually two $50 donations. I've had other people. I deposited 30 checks last night. Y'all, if we are getting our fair share, I ain't got to ask y'all to send money via Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, money order, check. That's how they. So I need everybody listening, because I need y'all to see how we connect this thing. If they're properly advertising with us, Angela gets to keep her 100 and invest it how she wants to. Now, granted, she's investing in the show, and I greatly appreciate it. What I'm trying to get y'all to understand is, Angela now can say, well, I don't have to give Roland the 100. I can now give it to my college or a scholarship fund or my community group. Same with Jarius. See, that's the thing, Mustafa. When we step back and look at how we are systematically frozen out, I keep telling everybody who's listening, public workers, Black public workers collectively are the richest group of Black people in America. Now, somebody watching going, Roland, I'm a school teacher. Boo. Your school teacher money funds the teacher's pension fund. Mm-hmm. Who do you think are the biggest investors on Wall Street? Pension funds. Mm-hmm. Who do you think venture capitalists go to launch their firms? Pension funds. When you hear private equity, pension funds. So all these Black people are workers. You've got people on the state level managing pension funds. Most don't look like any of us. Then they are then they're hiring companies, investment firms, to invest the money. Don't look like us. Companies got 401k programs. They're not using Ariel and not using Eddie Brown in Baltimore, Black-owned mutual funds. So here they are. I need y'all to hear me. They are taking the collective wealth of pension funds to invest in Wall Street and Silicon Valley to make white people rich. It's connecting the dots. Mustafa, it comes down to the money.
It's about economic power. You know, if we get people to understand that, then and begin to unpack where those opportunities lie, then that's when we can make real change happen inside of our organizations and inside of our communities. The resources build the infrastructure along with the ingenuity and innovation of the folks who lead those organizations. And when you understand that dynamic, then you understand why you have to put your strategies together and push these corporate entities that are not doing us a favor. That's the thing that we got to get people to understand. They're not doing us a favor. They have a responsibility to move these dollars back into the communities that are supporting them and help to build their infrastructure.
Right.
So it's time for us to be able to build our own infrastructure.
And that's why, Greg, Harvard has a $40 billion endowment. That's why Columbia and Cornell and Texas A&M, because when you've been sitting on the money And when folks pass on and they give to the university or they drop these millions upon millions, and so sure, folks are excited that Mackenzie Scott, the ex-wife of Jeff Bezos, has been sending, she's just increased the endowments of all these black universities. But I need our people to understand, when we're frozen out of all of the economic sectors and all we're getting are crumbs, that's why it makes it harder for us to fund our institutions, because we ain't getting the dollars. That's what happens when you got black kids who now have significant college debt because the mama and daddy couldn't get the high-paying jobs, which allowed them to save to be able to pay for their college. All of these things are interrelated, and just so I need everybody to understand how you also create black wealth, my wife and I don't have any kids. Which means that if I create a multi-million-dollar business and I decided to leave it to my 13 nieces and nephews, Roland's work with my wife now has created 13 black millionaires. That's what they've been doing. And so to everybody who's like, I don't know why y'all making this demand and lawsuit, because this ain't about an individual. This lawsuit is not about Byron Allen. This fight is not about, because trust me, I was on the phone with Byron today before I came on the show. Byron says he is prepared to file 3 lawsuits a week against major companies in America because he has the money to spend it.
Right.
So, what I am doing is working with other black media to say, to Greg's point, be in position when you receive the money to deliver on the goods in order, because they're going to try to play games with the numbers. This is all we're saying. But this fight we're in right now, y'all, this is what the first and the second Reconstruction was about. Don't get just caught up in somebody saying, pass the George Floyd Justice Act. No. You better confront the money. Greg, final comment before I go to a break.
No, I'll say real quick, brother. There's no we. That's very painful for me to say. There's no naturally developed we.
Yep.
Byron Allen could say that, and I hope he follows through on it. But the simple fact of the matter is, in the court, it's only Byron Allen. And I'm saying that to say, in this larger context, it's very important for us to understand this. I say this often to my students. I said, our solidarity was stronger the farther back you go to the lash, because we were held together through apartheid into a need for collective communal work. So when you see 1921 sitting there listening to us, Mother Fletcher yesterday testify in Congress about Tulsa at 107 years old, the Greenwood district of Tulsa was what it was because Jim Crow held that community together. And after they torched it, they then rebuilt it bigger. People don't understand. In the 1940s, so-called Black Wall Street was bigger then than it was in the 20s. They rebuilt. But what happens is when you remove the hedge of segregation, see, capitalism is all inclusive. None of us are frozen out of capitalism. Harvard has the endowment because the John Harvard had plantations in the Caribbean and among other places. It was based on labor theft, our labor theft. Once you have accelerated and gained that type of advantage, you never lose it.
Right.
The inequality just continues to expand. And so I guess what I'm saying is that it's more than us just thinking that there's a we. We can't stipulate that we. We have to develop that we.
Right.
And so otherwise, what capitalism does is, see, what you can create is a class of black million and billionaires who will then move in their own class interest against anybody. This is why public policy is so important. There's a lot of moving parts. I know we gotta go on, so this is very important, and so we won't have time to talk about it today. And this maybe you could pull together a conversation about this. This is why we have to think about this in terms of all these moving parts. I'll end with this. Our HBCUs are increasingly reverting to the mentality that I would closely associate with Booker Washington at the turn of the century, which is, injecting these HBCU curricula with basically employment agency curricula as these same companies move toward diversity, equity, which is they're being forced to do because of the people in the street who do not have that wealth. But the concession is, we'll pull a few more of you blacks in, make you a little bit richer, and as a result, The idea of developing a common mentality is checkmated in a capitalist society where we have taken individual progress as a proxy for collective progress. There's Kwame Nkrumah said it. Seeing black millionaires is not evidence of progress. That's evidence of what capitalism does to maintain and extend its interests. And so I guess what I'm saying is we really have to think very seriously about this. And so I'm glad to see Byron Allen in court. He needs to file all those lawsuits, and he never needs to leave that table with you and the brothers and sisters who, if they had the money, would turn around and hire everybody, because I don't see any evidence yet that these black millionaires and billionaires who have some institutional control turn around and invest that wealth in transformational projects for the collective.
And that's where, and again, this is the last point before I go to the break, that I need people to understand this. There's a reason why when we have these Where's Our Money segments, and y'all hear me talk about black advertising, you hear me mention law firms, engineering firms, architectural design firms, event planning, limousine companies, catering companies. There's a reason why I've given the challenge to black board members. Don't sit your ass on these boards and pick up your stock options and your check, and you not sit at the table saying, no, I need to see the black folks up and down. See, if all of a sudden, if this was all about, like I got some food talking about, oh, you're trying to enrich yourself. No. See, my grandmother had a catering business. My brother now runs the catering business. So I want to see black caterers get their money. I want to see black folks run audio visual get their money. I want to see black folks who are handling the car transportation get their money. Yes. See, that's where the we comes in. And so do understand, when I'm having these conversations with Byron Allen, we are having broad, deep conversations. Yes. See, y'all got to look at the list, who signed the letter. Now, the names on this letter are different than the first letter. Y'all can go back and look at the first letter, but the names on this one are different. First of all, the first letter we signed had 8 names. This one only got 5. Y'all look it up. So not everybody has been trying to roll. Some folks jumped off. Why am I saying that? Because this fight can't be won with scared Negroes.
That's right.
I could very easily be quiet and get a small check. I can't do that. Because if you tell me I should be happy with 2%, when I know we should be getting 10%, no, I'm not happy with that. Folks, this is about we understanding how the dots are connected. And if we, because remember, we are talking black-owned advertising. When you start talking about black supplier development, it's a whole different conversation. I'm saying we should be getting 10% of McDonald's ad spending. We should also be getting billions in black-owned supplier development. And I'm talking about everything they need, cups, janitorial, you name it, going down the list. But I need our people to stop being scared. I need our people to understand, scared money don't make money. And the only reason we even sitting right here now, because we had some black folks who had the courage to stand up to systems in this country. When we fought CNN, I called Bernard Shaw. And I said, Bernard said, Roland, every generation has its turn. Now it's your turn. We had our turn, now it's yours. I'm 52. A young brother or sister right now in high school or college should not be fighting the 1% battle 30 years from now.
That's right. So
this fight, y'all, to all you fools who are saying, oh, it's all about you. No, actually, it's not. Byron's 60. It's not even about him. It's not about Todd or Junior or Butch. No, it's actually for black-owned media 50 years from now. Because if we don't do this fight right now, 50 years from now, they're going to be having a 1%, 2% conversation. And you're going to have Negroes fighting over crumbs, happy to get 1% and 2%. As Denzel said in Malcolm X, I'm not satisfied. All right, folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.